Hey, listen up, I've tried to tell you this 100 times. Not getting better by lying there pretending to cry. You on repeat, you can see, cause you have closed your eyes. You say you listen, but you're missing what it's all about. Rise up now. If you never fall, you don't change at all. Cry out now. Have you given up? I will never stop, yeah. I try to help you, but you keep reading between the lines. There's nothing there for you to complicate, we're not aligned. You say you listen, but guessing that's just another sign of growing up. You're growing old, your life keep passing by. Rise up now. If you never fall, you don't change at all. Cry out now. Have you given up? I will never stop, yeah. Now if you break it, I can take it, I don't need a prize. Leave out the fact that I am up against 1,000 guys. My intuition efficient, cause I can use my mind. Don't try to tell me how it's done, you haven't done your time. Up now. If you never fall, you don't change at all. Cry out now. Have you given up? I will never stop, yeah. Rise up now. If you never fall, you don't change at all. Cry out now. Have you given up? I will never stop, yeah. Rise up now. If you never fall, you don't change at all. Cry out now. Have you given up? I will never stop, yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. And I see there's a few people watching. Let yourself be known in the comments, please, so I know who's here. And also, if you're watching on the replay, please leave a message and let me know that you're watching the replay. And I'm glad you're here, whether you're here live or later. We're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about something that I found in, hey, Betty Boop, I found in the news last night, which just really, I didn't, you don't think about these things sometimes, or I don't. The weight loss drugs, Ozempic, Wegovy, Missouri, I don't know how to say the other one, Missouri. These things have taken our world by storm, not the whole world, but and so what happened is it's causing failures in restaurants because of the people are not eating as much. And then even Walmart's saying that people are buying less food. And you don't think about that, but there's so many people using it now. And that's because, and that's, it's limited too. So whenever anybody can get it on their insurance who isn't now, I just think it's going to go crazy. And we've got, it's like $1,000 a month if your insurance won't cover it. And it's only covered for certain people. Like if you're diabetic, you can get Ozempic covered by your insurance. Hey, Flame. And so the first thing I want to do is talk about and I've talked about that here on, I've talked about this here on my show before. It's been a while, but some of the things that Ozempic does to the body, it can paralyze your stomach. I don't know how much it does that, like how many people out of the population it does that to, but there's serious digestive problems, and they're saying problems for hundreds of thousands worldwide. And so Then there's a video here, the Monjaro factory. They're trying to meet a 300% demand of increase of weight loss drugs. They are running their factory that's just all these little, their pins running through there, 300% increase. That's just the one medication. Let me see if anybody else came in. Okay. And then we've got the study found risk of these events. So these events include stomach paralysis, pancreatitis, bowel obstructions. There's like this huge increase in people with these problems compared to people who aren't on the medications. Appears to be about 1% of people taking Ozempic, which they just said was in the hundreds of thousands. So there's millions of people taking it. 1% get these bad side effects. And, you've heard some of the actors and people in the media talk about how it made them so sick and everything. So I don't know, like we don't know the long-term effects of this, but we do know that it's causing, excuse me, Rosie's upset again. We know that it's causing problems in some people's bodies. And so it's not going to be the end all and be all for weight loss. In the prescribing information for Wegovy and Saxenda, there's a caution about a host of serious side effects, including inflammation of the pancreas, gallbladder problems, blocked intestines, kidney problems, serious allergic reactions, increased heart rate, suicidal thoughts, changes in vision, or people who also have diabetes. You don't want to lose your vision to be thinner. Being obese is bad for your health. So it's kind of like a catch-22 if you're in the state where you can't lose weight and you're gaining weight and you need to lose weight. Then you take these drugs and then you turn around and let's talk about let's listen to this, because this guy, I mean, it is business. It's a business, it's a look at business, and like I don't normally cover business stuff, but when you look at this is all tied in. Hold on a second. And this toast that they're talking about, like, I don't even know. Let me look this up real quick. Toast. It's not like a bread. It's some kind of business. And I don't know what he's talking about, and I need to look it up here. Toast is a financial, it's a restaurant management software. And so they're going to be all in the know on the restaurants. So let's see what he says. Got to go back over here. If anybody scared to think about it, hey, Shalima. Well, I mean, it's just interesting to me. And I think that we probably all know at least one person who's on Ozempic, even though we may not, or one of these meds, even though we may not know they are. But I would guess that there's a lot of people who, our neighbors, people in the news, people in the media, people that you see around. And I think we're going to be seeing more and more of these kind of news stories popping up. I don't know. I might have to take Rosie to the doctor. She's acting up again. Let me know.
Since the dawn of man, getting help has been hard, whether it's for ED.
Well, first I'm going to put it on mute. I'm worried about my baby girl, Rosie. That's good, Flame. That's good to know that you've got, because I'm sure it takes a little bit to get I'm sure it takes a lot to get, you build up, you start with a low dose and you build up. And, I've heard, I know a guy who's on one of these and he's given up marijuana, medical marijuana, and he doesn't drink. And he's losing weight. He's always been trying to lose weight, and he was losing weight, but it's like a miracle drug for him. And I don't think he never talks about being sick from it. But so this is the business side of, it's kind of like the, for every action, there's a negative reaction. I forgot what that, I had it in my head earlier. And, it's like in life, you have something that happens, and how does that affect other things? Like if you're in a car wreck, and what happens, you might lose money, you might have, you might have damages that you have to pay for out of pocket. You may have, you might be unable to get another vehicle. You might have, been injured and have medical bills that aren't completely covered. So you've got these debts that come in with this car wreck, of which was not even your fault. And that's like, these businesses are out here, and restaurants have this tiny margin of profit on food, because you have to be able to order just the right amount of food for just the right amount of customers. And so, and it doesn't last forever, and you throw a lot of food away, because, like, say if you have a salad bar, you're going to end up throwing a lot of that stuff away. And so the amount of money that you lose if you lose customers, or I don't think Walmart's going to ever suffer too badly, but who knows? I mean, they sell a lot of food and people aren't buying it right now.
Senior fintech analyst at Mizuho. We're also joined by Jefferies' Matthew Taylor, who says concerns about diabetes devices and treatments in particular are overblown. Welcome to both of you. Dan, we'll start with you. What's toast? You really think could be toast from this?
Yeah, thank you for having me again. I think the weight loss drugs are going to make toast lose weight, right? And we did some work in conjunction with our medtech device analyst, Anthony Petrone. So we used a lot of sort of very sophisticated studies about weight loss. And what we found out is that this is going to be like a $25 to $30 billion drag on the U.S. restaurant industry by 2025. There's like 130 million people between obese people in America and type 2 diabetes. That could be as much as 130 million people that have that diagnosis. And if only like 15 million of them, which is less than 15%, use that, this is like a $25 to $30 billion drag on the U.S. restaurant industry, and like a potentially like a mid-single digit drag on volumes for toast, because they're 100% exposed to restaurants.
And the shares are down 6% today. They're down 22% over the past 3 months. It's incredible to see something potentially have this much impact. Obviously, you don't cover the restaurants, but I mean, we're talking about huge money that is potentially going to be lost as a result of this.
Correct. And like people are pushing back, saying it's only Upper East Side.
And then there's the thing of if a restaurant's not doing well and the restaurant closes, jobs. So it's just a domino effect. Betty Damn Boob. No more, be safe.
At Upper West Side, right. People are buying it off. I think the CFO of Walmart said something about this recently, about that they're seeing, trends at Walmart in terms of food consumption. So this is widespread. This is across all of America. It's not just New York City. It's not just Upper East Side.
Is there additional pressure on toast in a market day like this simply because of the fintech business model in general being a question mark? In other words, how much of its losses are because of weight loss, and how much is just because of yields popping and this not being a very profitable company yet?
It's actually a great question. So this is a long-term drag, like 24, 25. We actually see some near-term issues, right? They have trouble getting into the end.
That's exactly true, Flame. People are we're in a bad time in our economy where people don't have as much money, and the cost of food has gone up. So just imagine that on top of that, because that's happening. And it's unlikely that food's going to drastically be reduced in prices, but it's a lot on a restaurant, because they have to pay more for food. They have to pay more taxes, and the food costs more, and then they have less traffic in the restaurant.
Enterprise, we're seeing that in the numbers. We've done survey on student loan debt, which shows you that 34% of people have student loan debts, and of them, 80%, almost 80% said that they're going to pare back their consumptions at restaurants. So there's some real idiosyncratic drags on Toast near term, and then the long term, big deal is Ozempic in my view.
Right, and I think the point for people here is as they're looking at buying opportunities as the sell-off deepens, you're saying this is not necessarily one of them. I know there are some you do like. We'll come back to that later, Dan. For now, thank you very much, Dan Dolev with Mizuho. Meantime, medical device names have also been expected to take a hit as weight loss could lead to less demand for new hips and knees in the future. And the need for insulin would also seem to go way down. But my next guest says the sell-off in insulin delivery pod maker Insulet, whose shares are down 44% in the past 3 months, is overdone.
All right.
Done. And they're upgrading the stock now. Matthew Taylor is the analyst.
I just find things like this interesting. I'm thinking maybe other people don't, but I do. I think this is very interesting, and I think about. But I mean, I have friends who manage restaurants. Then I saw this article about. Let me get this pulled up. There's things that, I don't normally think about I've been covering Ozempic and these drugs for a few months now, talking about them on my channel here. And now they're saying, okay, Pepsi, shares of Coke and Pepsi were slammed on yesterday, after Walmart's U.S. chief executive said the new class of weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy were causing customers to buy fewer groceries and cut back on those that are high in calories. Walmart's I read that earlier, so now it's not letting me look at it because I'm not a paying customer. Analytics have warned that food and beverage companies would need to consider the impact of Wegovy and Ozempic on consumer behavior. And Walmart told Walmart's, I guess one of their chief people said in an interview that the company can track which of its customers are taking the drugs. Again, Walmart's tracking you. He said in an interview that the company can track which of its customers are taking the drugs and see they are causing a slight pullback in overall basket or less units, slightly less calories. The comment said Coca-Cola shares down 0.16% or down 4.8%, and Pepsi's down 5.2%. Analysts have already expressed concerns that the growing popularity and use of anti-obesity medications would have far-reaching implications for the food and beverage industry, and that companies may have to adapt their product choices to address changing consumer behavior. Some 45% of the U.S. population is currently deemed to be obese and 70% to be overweight. And so, if you're one of these people who's looking at, what kind of business to go into in the age of Ozempic, you're going to think, well, let's go into this, some kind of healthier food. If you want to do food or a restaurant that's, maybe you don't pay as much for the food because you don't get so much. That's the thing about a lot of restaurants. They just pile the food on. If you ate at a restaurant and finished your meal every day, I mean, that's a lot of food. I can go to a restaurant most of the time, unless it's a really high price, really expensive, nice restaurant, they don't give you those big portions. But if you just go get food, I can eat that meal twice, or I can go get a small pizza at one of these. I love these places that, have the really fresh crust and they're, local, and a small pizza and eat it for 3 meals. Yeah. And you're right. A lot of the restaurants have trouble even getting staff because they don't make enough money. You're right, Flame. That's very true. It's hard to get people to work in. Smaller meals would be better. Yeah. It's hard to get people. There's a little restaurant if you go down in, this little tourist town I'm in, if you walk downtown to these little shops and everything, there's restaurants down there, and they'll have a sign up, "We can't open today. We don't have enough staff." And that's sad when you have a high unemployment rate and a number of people in this area who appear to be homeless, and many are out in the street. So I mean, I just don't see where this is going to turn back around anytime soon. But I think it's something that we want to be aware of. Well, anybody who's thinking about any kind of, even if you're just like thinking about a YouTube channel, well, if you are in the health field, you could work it towards, what are the good or bad effects of these things, and how is it going to trickle, not trickle down like Reagan, but you know what I'm saying. So this Slim Jim maker ConAgra brand said on Thursday it may consider changing portion sizes of its snacks if the rising use of weight loss drugs result in a change to food consumption patterns. So, this isn't just Coke and Pepsi or Walmart. This is, ConAgra is looking at it. I'm sure all the companies that produce food are looking at how can we still be profitable. And see, like Coke and Pepsi, I would think they would put more into their diet drinks. But these weight loss drugs, I think you're not going to want to, from what I understand, they slow down the digestion. So you are probably not even wanting to drink a diet drink, because those, the soda, the carbonation, when you're full, that's filling, and I would think that even those sales would be down. And people who are being successful with Wegovy may just be like, their mindset could change to where they're just trying to be, look, I'm taking in less food. Let me eat healthy and feel better and eat. So I would be looking at the way to have the food that's healthy for my, for my sales. That's what I would do. So I just found that to be very interesting, and I wanted to look at that with you guys and let you know what's going on as far as that goes. And, if you know anybody who's on the medication, watch them and see, and talk to them and see how it's doing for them. I would be interested to talk to somebody who's on that medication. If you know anybody who would want to, even come on panel, that's okay. I can keep, oh, you can. I don't buy any soft drinks anymore. I stopped using, I used to drink a lot of Coke and Dr. Pepper, and then I stopped and I went to, I drink a lot of iced tea now, but I'm not eating hardly anything sugary anymore. And I'm feeling better, and I'm getting my sleep, and it's making me feel a lot better. So I'm really about, trying to help people be healthier. And so that's what I had on that. And then let's look at, this is we're changing completely, but I was looking around this morning. There was a guy out. We're not going to watch that today, but he was out. Just a second. Just a second. So he was out following this car that these people were scamming. They have a sign. Okay, we're gonna do this another day, but these people have this sign, and they have a picture of a little boy, and he says they're gypsies, and their vehicle is that they have a white vehicle with tires piled up on top of it. And it's a man and two women. And they, no, wait, that was a different one. Well, the one today was a different one. I'm sorry. That was some people that were panhandling and then staying in a motel, and they had a $40,000 vehicle that this one guy was following around. Yeah, Betty Dan Boop, all the inflammatory foods I'm really trying to stay away from, for my well-being. No, the one I was listening to today was some people who are going around with this sign that they're saying they're trying to raise funds for a funeral for this baby, this little boy. He's like, I mean, he looks to be like 8, 9. And this guy goes up to them and he says, I want to help you. I'll pay for it. Where's the funeral home? And I'll send the money. And they start getting mad. Oh, hey, Salmonella. And they start getting mad and cussing him out and all this stuff because they are not, there's no funeral. Can you imagine going out on the street and putting any child's picture on a big poster board and saying, we're raising money for a funeral. We need your help. And then there's no funeral. There's no funeral. So I just came across this one this morning that I thought we could. This is not what I was just taught. This is just an overview of a bunch of different scammers. And it's called GoFundMe's Dumbest Scammers. And I'll put the link to this video in the About section when we're done. And what will come off like a scam, Flame? Can y'all hear this? Could y'all hear that? I think I hit the sound button, but I'm not positive. Can anybody hear that? Can you hear it? Going the street asking for money to bury your child. Yeah, but it's not their child. I mean, there's no child. You can't hear it? Oh, that's because I didn't present it yet. Okay. I'm losing my mind. I had a mind, but I lost it. All right. All right, we got to start over. You can hear me, but not that. Should be able to hear it this time. Should be able to hear this.
Gambling.
It was a GoFundMe scam that made national headlines.
Reckless spending.
Nisha Taylor, she will spend 18 years on probation.
Faking cancer. Today we'll tell multiple stories about people that scam the world on the website GoFundMe with varying degrees of shamelessness. And it just goes to show that a tragic tale might not be as genuine as presented on the World Wide Web.
Just gonna talk about this while we go. I don't have permission to use this content. I'm using it for educational purposes. This thing is, we all love to bury our loved ones, but it's a lot cheaper with other options now. And if you don't have the funds, you can't do it. Yeah, Flame, but the thing is, these people weren't actually burying a child, because when he said he wanted to pay for it, they got mad and started throwing rocks at him. And it's just a scam. And then there was another day they had a different picture. That's why anyone pushing scam. Well, I don't know. They're out there on the side of the road. Yeah, that's why I don't like to stop and give people money, because there are resources just right down the street from where I see a lot of these people. And I don't know if they're for real or not, because you have the scammers, and scammers ruin things for a lot of people. Hey, Echo.
GoFundMe is famous for its promotion of medical fundraising. The site allows strangers to assist in paying for otherwise unaffordable health-related bills. Because of this, it's no surprise many scammers take advantage of that generosity. But the most shameless of the lot are those willing to fake terminal illness, especially with their own children. That takes us to CJ Strong, which was started on July 30th, 2017. It was supposedly made by a friend of the LaFrance family.
Oh, so they're going to use a child? They're going to use a child. Medical issues. Yeah, the thieves ruin it for everyone. Again, this kind of goes back to yesterday, the bad guys. The bad guys can do things like this and not feel a bit bad about it. And then the next guy comes along and they really need help. And people are like, well, I don't know if you're telling the truth or not. So I don't know if I want to help you.
Who had just received devastating news. Martin and Jolene were told that their son had Hodgkin's lymphoma, a form of cancer that targets the immune system. They were then informed he had several malignant tumors. It
says, I am starting this GoFundMe to help a deserving family going through something no family should ever have to deal with. The LaFrance family recently found out their son CJ has cancer. CJ was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma initially. If that isn't bad enough, they were just given news that he has a malignant tumor in his abdomen and gastroparesis. I don't know how that. CJ has to go to the children's hospital several times a week for treatments, which has forced both Jolene and Marty to take a leave of absence from work. They have been out of work since March, leaving them with no income. Any funds raised will go toward the medical expenses, gas for travel, and anything else related to this difficult time.
Fundraiser reads, CJ has to go to the children's hospital several times a week for treatment, which has forced both Jolene and Marty to take a leave of absence from work. They have been out of work since March, leaving them with no income. Any funds raised will go towards medical expenses, gas for travel, and anything else related to this difficult time. To make matters worse, later updates claimed Jolene herself was afflicted with lupus. The only archive available shows that in the first month, they raised over $3,000. While this wasn't enough to reach their goal, it did catch the attention of locals. CJ and his family were brought to a practice meet.
$3,000. That's a lot of money. That's more than a lot of people make in a month. A lot of people. Yeah, St. Jude.
By the Syracuse football team. The boy got to meet his favorite college athletes, who even let him break down a chant. The couple told reporters their son actively underwent radiation and chemotherapy. They even said he had multiple lymph nodes surgically removed. That was in spite of the fact that he had a full head of hair. While none of the players
Yeah, that is sad. It is really sad.
or journalists questioned his illness, authorities were unconvinced. Police began a 4-month-long investigation that ultimately confirmed their suspicions. CJ was never diagnosed with cancer or any of the conditions his parents solicited donations for. Because of this, on May 7, 2018, Martin and Jolene were arrested. They were charged with first-degree scheme to fraud, as well as child endangerment. The two were ultimately sentenced to 5 years of probation and $3,000 restitution.
So that didn't go like very long or very hard. At least the way it's being presented, these people in a month gained this amount of money. It seemed fishy. They looked into them and look what they got. 5 years probation. Yes, me too, Echo. And they got to pay back money that they don't have. Well, a source inside the family tipped off investigators. Wow. That's bad.
GoFundMe subsequently issued a refund to anyone who donated. Alas, the LaFrance family were far from the only people who attempted this kind of stunt, with a similar case occurring just a year.
So I wonder if it's the same way. They're not telling us, but these are GoFundMe things. I wonder if GoFundMe went after them, or if their state, or I wonder if that would happen if you did that on PayPal or YouTube or something. I don't know. It's crazy.
Prior, in June of 2016, Victoria Morrison started the campaign Blake's Bucket List. She wrote that her 10-year-old son had recently been diagnosed with leukemia. It then explained her inability to fulfill his last will. He made a list of things he wants to do before he gets too sick, and it's my job to help him do just that. But I'm a single mom to 3 other kids and work, so please, if you have a spare dollar, help make my son's dream come true. It raised approximately $2,000 as people reached out to make his last days worthwhile. That included a shopping spree with emergency responders and even a helicopter ride. Unfortunately, tragedy struck shortly after these gifts. In early 2017, Victoria revealed on social media that Blake had passed away. Her son's body was to be cremated, with a memorial service held that April. The community was devastated, but weeks later, everything they thought
I think we're going to find out he didn't really die here. Let's see. Can you imagine using your children in a lie to get money? On top of the lie, you're using your child and claiming that your child is going to die and you are raising money for that child. I just can't even imagine that.
What they knew about him was changed. On April 14th, law enforcement discovered that Blake was alive and well and being hidden away at a motel. Not only that, but he was in perfect health, showing no sign of the supposed ailments. They subsequently arrested Victoria on charges of fraud and spoke with her son. Through this, they realized Blake had also been led to believe he was dying. She was charged with child neglect or endangerment causing substantial mental harm. As a result, Victoria pleaded guilty and in 2018 was sentenced to a minimum of 5 years in prison. The money was also
5 years in prison. 5 years in prison and damage to her son. I mean, you don't do that. Wow, that just makes me sick, but I'm glad she got prison time.
Thankfully refunded by the site. While both of these examples are of parents exploiting their kids, that trend was far from universal. There are countless examples of an individual faking their own illness for profit, such as the case with the story of Cynthia Smith. It all began in the fall of 2014 with the page, "Please help us save Cindy's life." It was made by a woman distraught over her friend's health. She wrote that Cynthia suffered from CIDP, an extremely rare autoimmune disorder that causes the body to attack itself.
Yeah, Echo, so you've got the mental damage of a child being put up in a hotel thinking that, or motel actually, thinking that they're sick, and it's got to be like you're living with some parent who's not mentally stable, and then this parent goes to prison for 5 years. For a child, that's a lifetime, 5 years. And hopefully the child got put in a better, I hope that child got put in a better place than that parent. And you're right, Bones. Be careful what you wish for, and money is not the end all and be all to happiness. If you're just wanting money, lying about things, no, it's not going to work for you.
Not only is CIDP incurable, but it often leads to blindness, paralysis, and even organ failure. If that wasn't bad enough, it necessitated frequent hospital visits and medical expenses. That included $7,000 a week for medication. And
$7,000 a week?
Experimental surgery that cost $500,000.
Oh my
now,
goodness.
Cindy could no longer afford to survive. Miraculously, the fundraiser proved successful.
Oh, and look, she's using a child's picture in that. Tyler and Auntie together for the first time. Oh. Yeah, I know, Bones. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it.
It was shared across the World Wide Web in the coming months, collecting over $126,000. This attention led the Hamilton Spectator to become interested in profiling the story. In March of 2015, they spoke to the woman's friends and loved ones about her battle. They recalled her health had begun to rapidly deteriorate in October. She was left bedridden, blind, and unable to speak. Eventually, her immune system became so weak she could no longer have visitors. She apparently had to be airlifted to a hospital after experiencing organ failure. The
Organ failure?
outlet initially took this at face value, but they found themselves unable to substantiate any of Cindy's afflictions. Her close ones also couldn't produce any detailed medical information. Because of this, the article was never published. The same wasn't true for the Burlington Post, who similarly wrote about her case. They only came to the same conclusion afterward, issuing a retraction.
So you've got newspaper reporters, you've got journalists looking into this and finding, I'm just going to say there's a lot to be said for journalists and even, internet like YouTubers who look into stuff and find things that the police may not have time to go do, because they may not, there may not be a visible sign that something's wrong, and it takes a little bit of digging. And sometimes just your regular people will find it before law enforcement will. No fraud is required, Salmonella. Yeah, there's a lot of help needed signs everywhere. You're right. There are pretty much every store could, like a lot of places and restaurants will hire people. They will. They're so hard up for people to work that they will hire people who normally they wouldn't hire. Even if you're just doing, bussing tables or something, it's still income.
But unlike the former, they had contacted law enforcement over their concern. In response, authorities began investigating the woman's past. They seized Cindy's medical documents, finding she had never been diagnosed with CIDP. She was perfectly fine and able to see, walk, and talk. With this, they started to question if others were aware of the lie. But even after scrutiny, they concluded that Cindy had acted on her own. She'd convinced her entire community, including her own family and friends, that she was dying. That included purchasing expensive medical equipment to perpetuate the facade.
So you've convinced everybody that you're going to pass away. You're asking for money that you don't really need for medical reasons to go do what? Take a trip, whatever. Eat. I just don't. How do people even think that they're going to get away with this?
And her exploitation of their generosity extended beyond GoFundMe. In December, Cindy's mother took her store to shore at the mall to ask for donations. Catherine Rudda, a store manager, saw her sobbing as Cindy sat in a wheelchair. This led her to donate 8 boxes of items that once belonged to her own and now deceased mother. Catherine wasn't alone either. Police would find a storage locker filled with similar gifts from locals. What they couldn't recover was the hundreds of thousands of online donations. The vast majority had disappeared, with officials only able to recover $7,200 from her account. In May of 2015, Cindy was arrested and charged with defrauding the public of more than $5,000. The news shocked everyone in her life, still under the belief she was chronically ill. She pled guilty to a lesser charge the next year and was sentenced to 2 years of probation. This was in part due to their inability to locate the missing.
2 years of probation. 2 years of probation. She pleaded guilty to 1 count of fraud under $5,000. It was headed for trial when she decided to enter a plea. She pled guilty to defrauding the public over money raised on her behalf for an illness that she pretended to have. And she only got probation? Not fair.
Funds. They concluded the campaign amount had likely been inflated, but it remains uncertain to this day. Unfortunately, this is only the start of the depths of depravity on GoFundMe. Our next story today starts with a GoFundMe page titled Paying It Forward. It was created on November.
Wait. This couple got $402,706 of a $10,000 goal. Wow, they must really be good. Let's listen to this. This is gonna be good.
November 10th, 2017, by Kate McClure and her boyfriend Mark D'Amico. The couple explained that a month earlier, Kate was driving to Philadelphia when she ran out of gas. This forced her to pull over on the side of the highway. It was then that the woman was approached by a homeless man offering to help. Taken aback, she got into her car and locked the doors. But the stranger kept his word. He went to a nearby gas station and used his last $20 to fill up a canister. He then brought it back and filled up her tank. While grateful, Kate had no money on hand, so she promised to return with a gift. The woman and her boyfriend would end up returning several times in the following weeks. They'd bring him cash, snacks, and Wawa gift cards. Each time, they'd learn a little more about the man's backstory. As it turns out, Johnny Bobbitt Jr. was a 34-year-old veteran who served in the Marine Corps. Following his service, he moved around the country going from job to job. That was what brought him to Philadelphia. pursuing an offer with just enough money to buy a truck. But the prospect fell through, forcing him to withdraw the little savings he had. It was in the midst of this that he then lost his paperwork.
We don't have Wawa here. I've never been to a Wawa.
Rendered him unable to work as he quickly depleted his entire bank account. By the time he met Kate, he'd been homeless for an entire year, sleeping under a bridge. It was humbling to understand this gratitude came from someone with so little to give. Eventually, they came to the conclusion that he deserved much more. The GoFundMe and its story was so inspiring that they raised over $1,700 in the first week.
$1,700 in the first week. They must have been head over heels excited about this scam.
Bobbitt was ecstatic, as even that amount would change his life, but neither he nor the couple could have predicted what would happen next. The fundraiser went viral as tens of thousands began sharing the link. By November 24th, they'd collected over $400,000, far exceeding the original goal. Because of this, Johnny requested they stop taking donations. The two obliged and wrote in a post. Johnny asked, instead of donating to his campaign, to maybe take a second to search for another worthy cause that for whatever reason hasn't gotten the attention his has. Mark and I couldn't begin to express how grateful we are that you guys made this little fantasy a reality. In the coming days, the three appeared on various TV stations and outlets looking for a feel-good story. Johnny would talk about how fortunate he was to get a second chance at life. Shortly after, the organizers outlined their plan for the fund. The first purchase would be a new home that Johnny fully owned. Then his dream truck, a 1999 Ford Ranger. The rest was to be put in two trusts set up in his name. The first gave him the ability to collect a small salary each year. The second was for retirement at the behest of a professional. Johnny would be given access only when he felt comfortable. This was so he could one day live out his dream of owning a piece of land in the country. Until then, he was given a bank account with funds for everyday needs. The couple noted the plan was made by the Bobbitts' lawyer and financial advisor. They also vowed to take an active role.
This all sounds on the up and up, doesn't it? It sounds good. I don't know what the outcome's going to be. We know it's not going to be good because it's in a scammer video, right?
In helping him secure a job. It appeared that a lot of planning was done to ensure this was all handled correctly. Thus, people trusted Johnny was quietly getting back on his feet as updates slowed down. But unfortunately, this is where the story takes a turn for the worse. You see, behind the scenes, tensions rose as Mark and Kate didn't fulfill their promises. Instead of a house, Johnny was moved into a camper on land owned by McClure's family.
Oh, no. They're not giving the money to him. They got him a camper instead of a house.
He was then given a used SUV that swiftly broke down. The two trusts were similarly never made. Meanwhile, the couple's lifestyle became suspiciously luxurious. Kate purchased a new BMW and started vacationing.
She bought herself a new BMW. She bought him an old vehicle that broke down and a camper to live on some land that was somebody else owned. What?
Vacationing across the country. She even embarked on a helicopter ride over the Grand Canyon. D'Amico, meanwhile, spent his time gambling at a concerning frequency. These observations made Johnny suspicious over how the funds were handled, and the subsequent confrontation only led their friendship to deteriorate further. To make things worse, Bobbitt then relapsed on heroin. He was put into rehab twice before being kicked back out to the street. In the end, the man was once again homeless and panhandling. This information came to light in August of 2018, when Johnny was found and interviewed by the Philadelphia Inquirer. There, he also revealed he only met his financial advisor once and never saw his lawyer. Though this all seemed damning, the couple refuted his claims. They argued the purchases in question were made using their own money. Mark and Kate received sizable sums after appearing on shows like Ellen DeGeneres. D'Amico did admit
Oh, so they're out here lying and scamming, and they get invited on Ellen for doing such a good thing for somebody. Wow.
that he used $500 from the GoFundMe for gambling, but he stipulated that it was all immediately repaid with his winnings. Finally, the two explained their justification for withholding the funds. $200,000 had supposedly already been given to Bobbitt, only for him to waste it. That included a gift of $25,000 on Christmas, which he burned through in a matter of weeks. And those spending habits only worsened following the relapse. They noted he started visiting areas known for dealing, and allegedly he even stole and pawned their belongings to fuel his habit. Mark went so far as to state, "Giving him all that money, it's never going to happen. I'll burn it in front of him. Giving the money to someone addicted to drugs would be like giving him a loaded gun."
Well, why were you like you from the very first, before he relapsed, you didn't give him the right amount of money. So don't be using that for an excuse.
The remaining half was said to be kept in a savings account. It would only start dispensing when Johnny was sober and had a job. Given the man had indeed relapsed, their story seemed plausible. But Johnny denied the alleged theft and felt there was no way he was given anywhere near that amount. The author was able to point out at least one discrepancy. Mark and Kate claimed to have bought 2 vehicles for Bobbitt in their own names so he could sell them. But by the time the article was written, they'd both been sold anyway. Regardless of who they believed, this all caused a massive wave of backlash. For the public to raise almost $500,000 for someone who less than a year later was homeless again felt implausible. Enough so that the crowdfunding site itself began investigating. Following these revelations, GoFundMe issued a statement. "We are looking into the claims of misuse regarding this campaign. When there is a dispute, we work with all parties involved to ensure funds go to the right place. We will work to ensure that Johnny receives the help he deserves and that the donor's intentions are honored. GoFundMe always cooperates with law enforcement investigations." Afterward, Johnny's lawyer stepped forward to speak for his client.
You probably don't want to fundraise through GoFundMe then, because they're going to stand with law enforcement if it's thought that you're scamming. So I wouldn't do a GoFundMe if you're scamming.
Interests. He decided to represent Mr. Bobbitt completely pro bono. His attorney estimated Johnny received only a fraction of the donations, estimating around $75,000. The rest was transferred to the couple's personal bank and was completely unaccounted for. Because of this, she arranged a meeting with them in hopes of getting a breakdown of how they spent the cheddar. But when the time came, she discovered that no documentation existed. In fact, it was unclear how much was even left. Given how specific the original plan had been, this was a major red flag. Within 24 hours, a lawsuit was filed alleging the duo had committed conspiracy and fraud. The first hearing was held 2 days later, to which they didn't appear. The judge ordered them to transfer the remaining funds into an escrow account, but by the second hearing, this still hadn't occurred. The judge became frustrated. He once again asked their lawyer about the money. This time, the attorney stated his clients invoked their Fifth Amendment right to avoid self-incrimination and would not produce the financial information requested. It was clear that something was seriously wrong, and that was affirmed when police raided the couple's home the following morning. It was captured on video and posted onto social media. Mark is visibly unfazed, continuing to play golf as authorities search
Their home's being searched. What do you think they're going to find?
residence. His nonchalance felt bizarre given criminal charges were now on the table. That was an opinion held by their own attorney, who then dropped the two as clients. He disclosed that none of the money remained. By this point, the case had captured national attention. The once viral stars fell from grace as people scrutinized their past. In particular, they looked closer at Mark, who was embroiled in other concurrent legal issues. The serial gambler was sent to appear in court that month for a
So he's a serial gambler and needed funds, because typically gambling, you're going to win some money, but you're going to lose some money. You're going to win, you're going to lose. You're going to win, you're going to lose. You're never going to get rich being a gambler, because a gambler's going to put the money back in if they have a gambling problem. You don't ever hear about a gambler hitting a big jackpot and quitting gambling. There's a reason why they keep gambling. And so, you're not going to ever get ahead. You might as well just play with pennies.
Completely unrelated crime. He allegedly ripped 3 headrests off his car and threw them out the window. This hit the vehicle next to him, causing upwards of $2,000 in damages. That was just one of 3 different traffic incidents. While the others were less severe, Mark refused to address any of them in court. In response, a warrant was issued that led to his arrest on September 10th. He'd quickly posted bail before promising to save his public reputation. The degenerate gambler claimed to have an explanation that would make everything crystal clear. Whatever it was, it didn't impress law enforcement, though. 2 months later, Mark and Kate were arrested on charges of conspiracy and theft by deception. The public rejoiced, as it seemed Johnny would finally get the justice he deserved. But shockingly, police arrested the homeless man as well later that afternoon. The complaint alleged the trio actually conspired together to fabricate the campaign. This was confusing, as the scrutiny only came after the man claimed to have been scammed. Many thought they'd misread the situation, but authorities would clear everything up at a press conference held the next day. Upon raiding the couple's home, they uncovered a trove of electronic records, including bank statements and over 6,000 text messages. This allowed them to uncover a complete timeline of events that contradicted their own beliefs. To start, the backstory had been completely fabricated. The tale where a homeless man helped the woman with his last $20 never happened. In reality, they first spotted him by an underpass during their frequent visits.
So it was a lie from the very beginning. And the guy and the supposed homeless guy was in on it. Wow.
To the casino. It started with small gestures of generosity, offering change or a hot cup of coffee, but they eventually fixated on the idea of changing his life. The couple began texting back and forth about potential acts of charity, food, clothes, a Nintendo Switch, even a job and a house, but it didn't seem feasible. That is, until they came up with the GoFundMe. While they felt he was deserving of such help, they weren't sure his story alone would catch people's attention. Kate would confess to a friend, "The gas part is completely made up, but the guy isn't. I had to make something up to make people feel bad. So shush about the..."
There's no hiding things, y'all, in our day and age. Emails, text, everything can be pulled up. There's no hiding anything. You can't hide these. They're sitting there doing this via email. How dumb.
Made up part. To achieve this, Mark invented the story of that fateful night on the highway, though it's more accurate to say he repurposed it. He told a nearly identical tale in 2012, whilst living in North Carolina. He recalled on Twitter, "So this girl runs out of gas and has a flat tire at the same time in front of a Walmart and is blocking traffic. So I run to the gas station and then change her tire. I spent the only cash I had for supper, but at least she can get her little children home safe."
That's right, Betty. And also, it's electronic nowadays, so it's even easier to get that paper trail. Yeah, not found a smart criminal yet. Exactly. They're smart enough to do what they do, but they get caught. The bad guys.
The story worked, and the trio became a sensation overnight. In addition to their media run, the couple were in talks for a book deal. They were set to receive their own share of compensation. But rather than accept that amount, they decided to hoard the GoFundMe as well. It was used to buy designer clothes, cars, and vacations. Records show they withdrew over $85,000 in or around casinos across the East Coast. This discrepancy wasn't lost on Bobbitt, who began demanding more. Johnny was aware of the faux story, but did genuinely need the money. The details of his homelessness, military service, and inability to work was true, but they refused, even after being warned by friends of what could and did eventually happen. In March of 2018, a friend warned Kate, "You really need to get Bobbitt and get the public off your back by donating. He could out you." In reply, she remarked, "I'll be keeping the rest of the money. F you very much." One message also showed her mother expressing concern. "She just called me and said that people go to jail for scamming others out of money. So there's that. That's what my own mother thinks of me." By the time Kate regretted...
That's what my own mother thinks of me. You're a scammer. Of course your mother, parents will cover for their children, and sometimes they don't know the truth. Now, my parents, on the flip side of that, when they were, had some control over my life, would take the side of authority. Like if somebody, when I got in trouble in high school for skipping school, and my friend's parents said, "Oh yeah, we knew where she was." And maybe they did. But mine were like, nope, do whatever you need to do to the principal, and so the principal puts me in D hall for, I think it was 3 days. I had to walk in a line from the under the gym, in the basement of the gym, for all day study hall with the coach, to walk into the cafeteria a couple of blocks away in a single file line like little ducks. It was horrible, just because I skipped school.
Regretted this, it was too late. In one conversation, she admonished, "I can't believe we have less than 10K
Betty Dan Boop, I didn't know about this case.
left. I'm so upset." Mark assured her that their book deal would dwarf whatever money they stole. That continued even after the news broke of their betrayal. He suggested throwing Johnny under the bus and titling it No Good Deed. But as the scam continued to fall apart, the couple started to argue over culpability. Mark wrote, $20,000, BMW, 5,000, Disney World, and land trips, 10,000 in bags. We both went to Vegas, right? Like you act like you didn't spend $1. Kate reflected, "I wish that you never updated the GoFundMe. Like, we should have just let it go and not effing kept people informed." While prosecutors were still accounting their finances, they were certain that none remained. In light of this, GoFundMe issued refunds to all 14,000 people who donated to Bobbitt. They also revoked their previous offer to fully reimburse Johnny the $400,000. By this point, Mark and Kate's relationship had deteriorated. The two now had separate lawyers and were dead set on incriminating each other. On November 16th, Kate's attorney claimed she'd been victimized by the two men. Kate's a bit naive, and she's come out of a troubled relationship, and now she was with D'Amico, who is 10 or 11 years her senior, and she was under his influence. All of this occurred because of her trust in D'Amico. He argued that while Kate was aware of the initial lie, she was well-intentioned and tried to end the ruse early. When the GoFundMe reached $10,000, she attempted to pause donations, only for the site to state it wasn't possible. She then tried again when it hit $100,000 to no avail. This narrative, however, was easily disproved. GoFundMe allows users to stop campaigns at any time. This is apparent given they'd briefly done so when Johnny asked. But critically, as it turns out, it was actually reopened afterward against his wishes. In light of all this indisputable evidence, the verdict was inevitable. By 2022, Mark and Kate had both pleaded guilty to state and federal charges. Mark was sentenced to 5 years behind state bars for the misapplication of entrusted property. That was concurrent with his federal sentence, which forced him to spend 2 years at a federal prison. Kate was similarly sentenced to a year in federal prison and an additional 2 years in state. Johnny was a bit more fortunate. He was sentenced to 5 years on probation and mandated to attend a drug rehab program. He was also ordered to pay $25,000 in restitution. It turns out the couple's story of him wasting that amount had legitimacy. Regardless, he was given leniency for both cooperating and being more sympathetic. Our final tale begins with an arrest in Scottsdale, Arizona.
So those guys, that's not very much jail time and prison time for $400,000 scam. And then on top of that, they're using this guy and they're scamming him too. They're not giving him the money that's supposedly all going to him. And then he gets in trouble. But, the rehab part, yeah, he needed the rehab part. That's crazy. I think we're going to stop that one there. And maybe we'll watch the rest of it another time. So that's just, that's what I wanted to cover today was some scams and the Ozempic trickle-down effect, how that's affecting our whole economy. Well, maybe not the whole economy, but look, we're going to go back to the Walmart and Pepsi and all that. If a super major company like Walmart suffers losses because people are not buying as much food, then that's going to trickle down to where they're going to have to raise prices. People are going to lose jobs. You don't need, like, Walmart supercenters. I don't know what percent of their sales are food, but a lot of what they sell, the non-food items, well, a lot of that stuff you could get on Amazon or order online, and you don't need the whole big store to do that. So I would think that it would, I think that would cause some stores to close. Because you don't need as many food stores if not because nobody's buying food, but if you're not selling as much, right? So it would be harmful to business. Salmonella, it's a felony. You know, I think a lot of the felony charges are like how much money it is, and so I think felony, I don't know, it varies by state, but yeah, in Arizona, I don't know what it would be here. I don't know what the cutoff would be, but $400,000 is going to be a felony anywhere. And for them to only get a little bit of jail time, I mean, to me, a year in jail would be a lifetime. I don't even know what I would do. I don't think I could deal with it. But, a year for scamming $400,000, that just doesn't seem like enough to me. We're back. Ooh. So anyway, guys, that's just a short amount of news that I found, that I wanted to cover last night and this morning, and it's Friday. So it's been a fun week for the morning show here, and I hope that you guys enjoy it. If you're watching on the replay, please just comment below that you're watching the replay, and I appreciate you watching, and I appreciate everybody who's been here participating in chat. I appreciate that, and I hope everybody has a fabulous weekend. Go Hogs. My Hogs are not doing too well this year, but I'm old enough to be used to it with my team, so we don't have to you think majority is food. I do too. Grand larceny. Our laws need to change. Go Hogs. Everybody have a good weekend. I'll see you around the I'll see you. I don't know if you'll see me because I'm not really going into chats. And I'm more of an observer now. And so anyway, I appreciate y'all. We will be back Monday with our weekly show, our weekday morning show. I should be here Sunday morning for my Sunday morning live that I've been doing for over a year, except when I wasn't doing it at all. And I'll see y'all then. And y'all have a great day. And as the sign says, be kind to you. Be kind to you. Take care of yourself. And bye.